in the continuation of the difference between the Western approach and the Eastern approach to reality, there is also a main difference between two philosophical approaches, which is materialism versus idealism. And in the Western world, our worldview is basically materialistic. And that means that we think that the physical reality is real and that the matter and the physical stuff like atoms and molecules and stones and rocks and what we actually can take and touch and feel, we think that this is the basis of reality, and that thoughts, feelings, consciousness is a result of matter, which in principle means that a stone, if a stone can develop itself long enough through a process of evolution, you will end up being able to play chess with a stone, or it will end up getting self-conscious. That is a very difficult logical step to take, and the materialistic model really breaks down into some logical catastrophes and complete breakdown, because if consciousness and I am a product of matter, then I'm basically a machine, and when I cannot have free will, I have to be completely predestined, and I have to be programmed, and then who did the programming, and so forth. So this is called the hard body-mind problem in science, in trying to explain consciousness and how consciousness can come out of matter. So Descartes, he tried to solve the riddle once upon a time. He was one of the initiators to Western philosophy in the Middle Ages, or the end of the Middle Ages, in the time of Enlightenment and so on. And he suggested this split between mind and matter, between spirit and matter. And he split it up into two worlds. And without being able to explain how ideas and thoughts and consciousness was able to transfer into the physical material world, and he ended up with an explanation that the human being basically was a machine. So, but this is not, this is very different to our own experience of ourselves. We treat human beings and machines completely differently. There is another quality to us that makes us human. So materialism is basically inhuman, completely. But that is unfortunately the worldview that is present in the world, at least in the Western world, and is completely dominating the world. And this is what everybody just takes for real. So you could argue that when you go into theoretical physics and so on, there is a different worldview, because then matter doesn't really exist, that actually we live in space, and but still it's still materialistic. They're not able to get this model right, and because you need to have to take you have to change to a completely different philosophical perspective, which is idealism. And in materialism, the idea is that matter is the cause, that everything started with a Big Bang, and then, matter, through matter, everything evolves. Of course, with some very logical problems of, who delivered the materials for the Big Bang, and so on. So basically, coming out of nothing, this is actually impossible that anything can come out of matter, out of nothing. And actually, it is also a question that within Vedanta or idealistic philosophy, there is no answer to this question, because consciousness doesn't have any beginning, existence doesn't have any beginning, because non-existence is not possible. You cannot say that that if you go into space somewhere and say, okay, here is the end of the world. And there is no end to the world, because what's outside of that? Exactly. Okay, and you say, okay, here is nothing. Well, I am here to say that there is nothing. So non-existence is not possible. And so consciousness and existence doesn't have a beginning. As simple as that. And this is just something that we have to accept, although it is actually impossible to understand. That it's just completely beyond the mind, and is this enigma and mystery that we simply have to live with and just accept. So, but so in contrast to the materialistic point of view that says that matter is the cause of creation and all phenomenon, the idealistic point of view is the complete opposite. The complete opposite, that consciousness is the main cause. That life is a consciousness phenomenon. Life is basically a dream. And this was like philosophers like Plato said that, and this is implied in all mythologies and religions. Like in the Bible, in the first sentence of the Bible, it says, in the beginning God created heaven and earth. So, but that means that before the beginning, God was. And so there was something before the beginning. So meaning that God has always been. Exactly. So, and out of this, whatever God is, we will come back to that, whatever God is, out of this, creates this polarity of heaven and earth. You will find that in other mythologies, like the Taoistic of yin and yang, that in the beginning there was Tao, and then out of the Tao it polarized into two forces, yin and yang, the active and the passive, the masculine and the feminine, the dark and the light, the cold and the warm, so and so forth. Or in Hinduism, like Shiva and Shakti, with the masculine force and the feminine force, and so on. And within the cross, the Christian cross of a vertical line and a horizontal line is an expression of this polarity, or in the yin-yang sign is an expression of this polarity. So the idealistic point of view is that it's consciousness, it's out of existence itself, which is the cause of creation. But this is very difficult to understand and grasp, because I'm seeing through materialistic glasses. And when I studied philosophy once upon a time, I couldn't understand Plato at all, because what is this guy talking about? That the idea is creating the world, you know. And I think that most people don't understand Plato at all, where he's coming from, unless you have a background in idealism and can understand that actually the idealistic perspective is possible. So in order to grasp how is this real? How can this world be a dream world when it is when we experience it so real? So how can this be a dream world? It seems very hard to grasp. So, but I tell you this, you know, this is not the reason the world is not real. Simple as that. This is not real. What I mean by real is something that doesn't change. That is real. If something lasts for 10 years and then dissolves, it's not real. If it lasts for 1,000 years and it dissolves, it's still not real. A mountain can look very real, but within 1,000,000 years it's dissolved, and eventually this whole world will dissolve. But we don't need to go that far. We can just say, what about yesterday? What happened to yesterday? Where is yesterday now? It is gone. If yesterday was real, we should be able to bring it back and say, hey, that was a good day. We want to experience that one more time. Or where is your life up until this moment? It's also gone. So when we take a look at life, you know, life is a constant movement. There is something moving all the time. And so life is really like a piece of music. Like, you can only enjoy the music as long as the music is playing. The moment you stop the music, there is no music anymore. And so so this is the the real enigma here, that there is something, that change can only happen, has only meaning on the background in reference to something that is not changing. That I should have a concept of that I'm so and so old and I've lived so and so long can only be in reference to something that doesn't change. And what does not change is consciousness and existence. That is the permanent factor. It's a little bit like a movie. You could say that the movie screen doesn't change. It's the same movie screen all the time, but the film keeps changing all the time. And the movie screen is completely unaffected by whatever film is being shown. So when you investigate our reality, it's not as real as we think. So reality is really this dream world that is a expression of energy. So as long as there is energy in motion, there is a world. This is similar to computers, in the sense that whatever happens on the computer screen is the mathematical combinations of two figures, 0 and 1. And through these mathematical combinations, the various digital signals is able to create this whole virtual reality that you experience on a computer screen. And this virtual reality has become pretty big now that we got internet, and internet is growing every day because more and more websites is being created, more and more films is being uploaded, more and more experience is being expressed through the internet. So it's infinite, but the foundation of internet is energy. If you unplug the electricity in all computers of the world, there is no internet anymore. It's gone. Simple as that. And the same with this world. It's created principally in the same way. So if you take out the energy and unplug the energy from this world, there is no world. Simple as that. Gone. But existence and consciousness will still be unaffected. So in the sense that God was there before the beginning. And so if something has a beginning, it also has an end. So there is two dimensions here. In the same way as there is one dimension of this person that I think I am and my consciousness, there is two dimensions to reality. One dimension that is outside of time and space, where there is no time, where there's no space. There is only existence, and that is the only reality. That is real. That is the only reality. And I am this reality because I know I'm conscious. I know I exist. That's maybe a leap to take, right? But I cannot deny my existence. I cannot deny I'm conscious. And that doesn't change. You could say, okay, I became conscious when I was born. No, the body was born. But consciousness has been there all along. Consciousness all of a sudden just wakes up in this body and says, here I am. This happens every morning. Here I am again. I'm awake again, right? But I've been awake all the time. Consciousness is awake all the time. But anyway, so the point being that life is this energetic phenomenon, and what is real is consciousness and existence. That is the only thing that doesn't change, and because it doesn't change, it is real. You cannot get rid of it. Simple as that. It has no beginning, has no end. It's just there. And you cannot deny its existence. And life, although it seems to be real, it is a dream. It is. I'm not saying that the world doesn't exist. Likewise, with a dream at night exists, but the next morning, where's the dream? It's gone, right? And the same thing with your life up until now. Where is it now? It's gone. And so life is just what happens in this constant movement. And you cannot hold on to it. All you have is now. All you have is this moment. That is life. That's all there is. That's as good as it gets. So we better enjoy it, right? So So let's say the thing is that how can this world come out of existence? So if we imagine, like we can imagine that there is this swimming pool, and there is this in one ways it's an unlimited swimming pool, but we'll just imagine it's a swimming pool, and this is before anything is created, and so the water is just completely still. And so if you look into the water, there's absolutely no experience. This is before the world is created. So there is only consciousness in the sense that there is just nothing. There is awareness and consciousness, and if there is no experience. If you look into the swimming pool, there is absolutely no waves or whatever. Everything is completely still, no experience. So what happens is all of a sudden you get a world. All of a sudden energy arises in this pool for complete unexplained reason. That's the big mystery. So there happens a polarization because of this, and so you get energy, you get two different forces, and then you get this spiral or a wave in the water, and then you say, well, now there is something to experience, and then there is an object, and an object that has a beginning and has an end. It lasts for a certain time, and there is an experience. And so what happens in this swimming pool, that you get another world, and you get another world, and you get still another world, and eventually this becomes very, very complex. And at the end of the day, you get a complete world. And it's actually just the same that happens in a computer, in the sense that you start up with two signals, 1 and 0, and then you make these mathematical combination of worlds and worlds and worlds and worlds, and then finally you get this big virtual reality on a computer screen everywhere around the world. And in principle, we can imagine that it's a similar thing that happens to this world, but the thing is that the graphics in this world is just so amazingly real that we think it's real. And we're being actually fooled by it. So, but this is basically the difference between materialism and idealism. And so idealism is a philosophical perspective which says that consciousness is the main cause of creation. That consciousness and existence is the main cause, and life is a consciousness phenomenon. So this has a purely logical foundation, but it's hard to understand because we're so hardwired into the materialistic point of view, and it's very difficult to grasp that this world that is so solid and so convincing. If you get hit by a car, or if you get a toothache, or if you get hungry, this reality, this is real. I mean, who can doubt that? But when you analyze it and investigate it logically, it doesn't hold up. It dissolves, and it is a dream world. And so I'm not saying that the world doesn't exist. Like, I don't say a dream doesn't exist, but it is a dream world. And what is the only reality is consciousness. The only reality is existence. And I am conscious and I am existence. So I am real. I am reality. I am this reality. So, but I don't experience that. So this has huge consequences. But this is a starting point, just to get a grasp on this, to understand the difference between the materialistic point of view and the idealistic point of view.